So is anybody shocked at this point at the stuff that James Cameron is able to say publicly and get away with? I mean, the guy is known to say some pretty wild stuff, especially recently because he's kind of riding the wave of social justice. But apparently he said something insane recently where he came out and said that he actually supports Thanos' mass murder and depopulation agenda and that he thought he had a pretty viable answer. It's a little worrisome. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little worrisome when someone in Hollywood says something like that, but it's also not shocking. But let's see the context of which he said it, because that's the most important thing. This article comes to us from Bounding Into Comics, and it says, Avatar: The Way of the Water director James Cameron recently admitted that he supports the mass murder and depopulation agenda of Marvel Studios' fictional character, Thanos. In Avengers Infinity War, Gamora explains Thanos' outlook on life, saying, "The entire time I knew Thanos, he only ever had one goal, to bring balance to the universe by wiping out half of all life. He used to kill people planet by planet, massacre by massacre." Later in the film, Thanos further explains his worldview to Gamora while discussing his culling of her home planet. When Gamora asserts she was happy on her home planet as a child, Thanos countered, "Going to bed hungry, scrounging for scraps, your planet was on the brink of collapse. I'm the one who stopped that." He continued, "Did you know what's happened since then? The children born have known nothing but full bellies and clear skies. It's a paradise." Gamora retorts, "Because you murdered half the planet," Thanos counters, "a small price to pay for salvation." Now, okay, Thanos is a badass evil character, okay? We already know that. Thanos is one of the most legendary, I would say, characters ever made in some sort of a comic book or manga series or anything like that. He's very notorious, very well known, and for good reason. The guy is extremely powerful. He's very cutthroat, very simple-minded, really, when you think about it. And he's had some epic battles with the Avengers and whatnot. So, I mean, he's obviously a well-loved character for a good reason. But in the real world, doing something like killing half of the population, not exactly something a lot of people would go for. He goes on to explain, "Little one, it's a simple calculus. This universe is finite. Its resources finite. If life is unchecked, life will cease to exist. It needs correction." When Gamora says that Thanos doesn't actually know this, he responds, "I'm the only one who knows that. At least I'm the only one with the will to act on it. For a time, you had that same will as you fought by my side, daughter." Now, speaking with the time, James Cameron fully endorsed this evil worldview and ideology, telling the outlet, "I can relate to Thanos. I thought he had a pretty viable answer. The problem is nobody's going to put up their hand to volunteer to be the half that has to go." In Infinity War, during a flashback sequence, Thanos' shock troops forcibly separate the Sohobrians into two sides. One of the sides is then brutally gunned down by Thanos' forces. Later in the film, Thanos takes it upon himself to obtain a fully powered Infinity Gauntlet and snaps his fingers in order to wipe out half of all life in the universe. Cameron's comments to Time came during a discussion about the production of Avatar: The Way of the Water, switching to catered vegan food so they wouldn't be seen as hypocritical when lecturing oil companies. Cameron explained, "We couldn't lecture oil companies and turn around and eat hamburgers." So this guy's going on a full virtue signal tour. I mean, that's basically what he's doing. Ever since Avatar: Way of the Water came out, even though I knew the movie was going to be successful, James Cameron is a hardcore virtue signaler. He does it online all the time. If you look on his Twitter, he is literally all about that. So saying comments like this doesn't surprise me. He can also be saying it just for like shock factor. I'll give him that, but still, it's a ridiculous thing to say. It says, in order to enact a decision to switch to vegan food, Cameron appeared to shroud his dictatorial decision via council circle. Cameron relayed, "We all sat down together in a council circle. I said, this is what I want to do. If everyone wants to start screaming and throwing stuff at me, maybe we won't do it, but if people grudgingly nod, then we're going ahead." According to Time, no one objected and the council grudgingly nodded. Well, of course no one's gonna object to you, dude. You're like the boss of the entire set. You're James Cameron. Like, who's going to object to you when you say you want to do something? Highly doubt anybody's going to do so. It says Cameron's comments and his clear pushing of this evil is indeed just that. It is evil. Killing billions of people in order to save the planet is evil and wrong. And this is when Bounding Into Comics goes into a massive church spiel. Oh my God. Bounding Into Comics loves to just do that any chance they get. It says Cameron's comments come after he claimed in an interview with Esquire Middle East that he's sickened by what's happening with guns in our culture. Now, I remember making a video on this whole thing when he started to talk about guns and culture and everything like that. And mind you, this is from a guy who filmed a video where there is so much gun violence in it. It's ridiculous, right? He filmed a movie with so much gun violence, the first one and the second one, and I'm sure the third one and the fourth one are going to have plenty of gun violence. And now he apparently is sick to his stomach about gun violence in our culture. It's the ultimate hypocritical thing to say, but of course, James Cameron is going to say it because these people don't care about being hypocrites. He stated, "I look back on some films that I've made, and I don't know if I would want to make that film now. I don't know if I would want to fetishize the gun like I did on a couple of Terminator movies 30 years ago in our current world. What's happening with guns in our society turns my stomach. He continued, I'm happy to be living in New Zealand where they just banned all assault rifles 2 weeks after that horrific mosque shooting a couple of years ago. To this end, Cameron claimed he cut around 10 minutes of footage featuring gunplay from Avatar: The Way of the Water. So you cut 10 minutes of footage for a movie that showcases guns almost the entirety of the time. So, like, what did you really do here? 10 minutes of footage? You probably didn't even cut 10 minutes of footage. You're just saying that to virtue signal online. I highly doubt you cut anything from this movie, because knowing how anal you are with your movie, you need everything to count. So I highly doubt that was the case. You're just saying so online because people will believe you. You don't have to prove it. You could just say it. That's the thing. When you go online and virtue signal, you don't have to prove a single thing you're saying. You could just virtue signal, get all the clout for it, and prove nothing. So you have nothing to prove. That's the whole point of this. He relayed, I actually cut about 10 minutes of the movie targeting gunplay action. I wanted to get rid of some of the ugliness to find a balance between light and dark. You have to have conflict, of course. Violence and action are the same thing, depending on how you look at it. This is the dilemma of every action filmmaker, and I'm known as an action filmmaker. Well, you know what? You're also known as a hardcore virtue signaler, and that's unfortunate because, like I said many times, James Cameron has done many good movies. I'm never going to take that away from him. James Cameron knows exactly what he's doing when it comes to making a movie. He knows how to make a movie successful. There is no doubt about that. But as a human being, as a person who unfortunately has access to online social media websites, he's unfortunately a mega virtue signaler, and he's always going to be that kind of guy. And like I said, he doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. The guy already is very well known for the movies he can produce. It's obvious he is very skilled at his work and skilled at his craft. He usually leads highly advanced technology when he does his movies. But with that being said, you cannot talk about the fact that, oh, guns turn your stomach, and then you made an entire 2 movies that are massively popular that feature gun violence the majority of the movie. I mean, you literally have 2 warring factions, one of which are humans that use weaponry, especially futuristic weaponry and machines. You just can't do that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't give your virtue signaling any sort of credence, and unfortunately, it falls deaf on a lot of people's ears. And if you're trying to reach anybody, you should probably practice what you preach. And that whole, like, switching to vegan stuff doesn't really mean anything to anybody. I mean, really, who are you trying to impress with that at the end of the day? It's just a huge virtue signal, and nobody's here for it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.